Next day, although without official permission, Lest himself set out deeper into the forest. Together with Gorel, he was breaking through the shallow and middle layers, along the way even defeating B-rank monsters. Finally, the two found themselves in the place where they were destined to be, deep in the Ulstead forest. Finally, Lest and Gorel reached the place hidden deep in the forest. The burning premonition. They barely felt the presence of someone formidable waiting for them. Black Dragon, in that moment, announced the arrival of a new and dangerous trial that awaited him inside. Let us meet face to face the stunning presence of the Black Dragon. His power pierces the ruins. Although it radiated a creepy aura, he understood it was still a child and far from its true strength. And yet the enormous pressure emanating from him spoke for itself. This is not an ordinary enemy. The forest came out to meet the young Black Dragon, understanding that this was only a ray of his true power. When he grows up, he will exceed 100 meters and have devastating strength. In the original story, the power of the Black Dragon shattered the main hero's squad and nearly destroyed the kingdom itself. But breaking free from the control of the Demon Lord, the dragon used its last strength to heal the people in the towns it had ravaged. In this tale, at the last moment of life, the Black Dragon revealed its origin. It was a descendant of the divine dragon that once protected the kingdom as its guardian. It refused to allow its power to be used for destruction, spoke its last words, and departed. Although players perceived this as a forced defeat, the scene remained etched in memory for a long time. The Black Dragon appeared only once in the original story, but that moment was deeply imprinted in Lest's memory when he played the game, and now he is reincarnated. He decided to change fate. The first thing that came to mind was to use his taming skill and turn this mighty dragon into his ally. Lest not only dreams of gaining the power of the Black Dragon, he also wants to protect it from the very tragic fate that happened in the original story. After 4 months in this world, he finally faced the chance he had long awaited. But to tame the mighty dragon, he knew first he had to defeat it in battle. In this world, dragons were beings of incredible magical power, capable of transforming mana into the most diverse phenomena. Even at a young age, they absorbed magic and grew insanely fast. In the game, the Black Dragon's officer, the Demon Lord, was raised to Super S rank, but now he was only somewhere at the upper B level, so the chance to meet him became smaller. Standing next to Gorel, let's believe, together they had a real chance to defeat the Black Dragon. With determination in his eyes, he prepared to challenge the mighty beast to turn this encounter into his chance. The oppressive pressure of the Black Dragon filled the entire battlefield. Lest stood firm, filled with resolute determination. He called Geralt, and together they rushed forward straight towards the mighty beast. Lest sprang into action alongside Gorel to pull the Black Dragon from the skies, and with fierce determination they unleashed a combined force, preparing to meet the beast on solid ground. Lest unleashed a multiple cyclone explosion, sending a massive storm of wind directly at the Black Dragon. An irresistible force aimed to break through its defense and knock the mighty beast from the skies. The Black Dragon responded with stunning power too. With a single flap of its wings, it dispersed Lest's powerful attack and shocked Lest realized the vast chasm of power between them. Even against this young dragon, despite the overwhelming display of power from the Black Dragon, Lest remained unshaken. He expected such power and was fully prepared to face it head-on together with Gorel. The Black Dragon unleashed its destructive breath, a concentration of pure mana created solely for destruction. We will face this terrible explosion face to face, fully aware of the enormous threat, but ready to fight back. The breath of the Black Dragon burst out with a loud roar, but they dodged its destructive force too slowly. With a confident smile, he reminded himself that no matter how powerful the attack was, it was useless if it didn't hit. Using wind magic to hover precisely in the air, albeit with less maneuverability. Thanks to bodily enhancement and mana infusion, he showed that he had been preparing for aerial combat from the very beginning, ready to strike the Black Dragon right in the forehead. With a blade that grew stronger and multiplied, he fiercely charged from above. At the same time, he unleashed gravity magic to press down on the Black Dragon, forcing the beast to writhe under immense pressure as their fight intensified. A powerful strike from Lest knocked the Black Dragon down. Its incredible toughness meant it was almost unharmed. Realizing that the strike caused little real damage, he quickly called Geralt to deliver a counterattack. Responding to Lest's command, Geralt fiercely lunged at the Black Dragon, striking with full force in a coordinated follow-up attack. Even Geralt's sharp claws could not pierce the tough scales of the Black Dragon, revealing the entire incredible complexity of the battle. When Lest and Gorel stood firmly against him on that very ground, it became clear how stunning the dragon's power was. The oppressive presence of the Black Dragon filled the battlefield, and only its aura heavily pressed on Lest and Geralt. When the true scale of the battle became obvious, the black dragon roared threateningly, its gigantic eye fixed on Lest. But instead of faltering, Lest met the beast with determination, openly challenging its stunning strength with unwavering courage. Lest declared that his previous strikes were only the beginning. Standing next to Geralt, he gathered himself to the last drop. This was the true beginning of their battle with the black dragon. After being knocked down once, the black dragon abandoned attempts to fly and decided to engage in battle with Lest and Geralt directly on the ground. In the heat of the battle, Lest felt a surge of excitement. Unlike the game where the black dragon was always under the demon's control, this battle was different, raw, unrestrained, and real. Standing face to face with the black dragon, his heart pounded with excitement. Encountering such a powerful enemy ignited a fire within him, and he instinctively gripped the wooden sword, ready for the decisive battle. He directly confronted the black dragon, thrilled by the fierce tension of the battle. The surge of excitement only fueled his thirst for more, but deep inside he saw not just a fight, it was something much greater, and his true goal finally revealed itself. It was not just a confrontation. To tame the black dragon, he tore him away from that tragic fate, turning his sorrow into a new path alongside him. With determination burning in their eyes, the boy and Geralt prepared for the decisive battle, knowing that victory was their only way to change the fate of the black dragon. The black dragon's attacks were fierce but left many gaps, so he and Geralt could dodge, yet with each passing minute of the fight he began to feel something unusual. Realizing that the fight was not as simple as it seemed. Although the black dragon was still young, his presence as the king of magic was supposed to make the battle stunning. Instead, the clash was strangely easy. As if the dragon was not attacking them at full force, as if deliberately holding back. A strange pattern emerged in the fight. Although the dragon unleashed powerful attacks that were impossible to dodge, they appeared restrained, as if even his breath was controlled. An epiphany struck. The creature was not fighting at full strength. This confirmed that a deeper strategy lay behind its actions. Black dragon unleashed all his power. Accumulates energy for a devastating breath attack. Stunning unleashed power confirmed. It was no longer restrained. This became the decisive turning point in the battle. The destructive breath of the black dragon filled the battlefield with a blinding glow. Despite the overwhelming might, the warrior gritted his teeth and gathered resolve, not retreating as the tension reached its peak. He realized that the brute force of the black dragon alone could not be tamed. This creature was not like an ordinary enemy, it demanded something more, a true bond, not just strength. He now knew for sure brute force alone would never tame the black dragon, and to defeat and truly tame it, he would need something far more powerful than mere might. The aura of the black dragon loomed over the battlefield, the air compressed with tension, but instead of striking, the beast seemed to hesitate. An unbearable heat rose around him, the air was filled with stunning waves of magical power. Doubt pierced his mind. Had his prediction failed, and was he about to be crushed to dust by the incredible might of the black dragon? When the magical pressure subsided, he realized he was unharmed. The black dragon stood before him, radiating power but restraining its true strength, relieved yet confident. He realized the creature was fighting not to kill. He suddenly understood that the black dragon never truly wanted to harm them. Strangely, these seemingly pointless attacks confirmed his suspicion. The breath attack, though stunning, fully matched his hypothesis. It was the only attack he could withstand, and it proved his prediction was correct. He bitterly realized that the black dragon's breath was a deception. It looked deadly, but inside was empty, carved by precise magical control. Only one called the King of Magic could manage that, and what tormented him most was one question: why did the dragon take such extreme measures? The truth emerged: the black dragon was testing him because it respected his strength, wisdom, and that he acknowledged its pride. Suddenly, a message flashed on the screen: the dragon could now be tamed, giving him a chance to create a bond with that mighty creature carrying the legacy of its ancestors. The black dragon never wanted to harm the innocent. Its true desire was simple: to prevent its power from causing needless destruction. Understanding this and honoring the creature's pride, the man earned its trust, and in response, the black dragon accepted him and allowed itself to be tamed. The young warrior extended his hand to the black dragon and sincerely declared that his sole goal was to protect the dragon's pride from disgrace. Confronted with such sincerity, the mighty beast froze, silently acknowledging the determination standing before it. The warrior extended his hand and placed his palm on the black dragon. Letting out a powerful roar, he asked it to fight alongside him from then on. The dragon agreed, sealing their bond. As soon as the connection was formed, a mighty wave of power enveloped the warrior, and he, shocked, asked in surprise what strange phenomenon was overtaking his body. He realized that something far greater was awakening. When the pact with the Black Dragon took effect, a stunning surge of magic coursed through him, sharpening his strength, senses, and very essence to incredible limits. This was the true meaning of taming the King of Magic. Gain power he had never known before. The taming succeeded. The youth was granted a portion of the Black Dragon's incredible power and received a gift called the Dragon's Blessing. A new power flowed through his veins, marking the beginning of a great destiny alongside the legendary creature. Here the youth received the Dragon's Blessing, a gift that grants resistance to status effects and mastery in the subtle control of complex magic. Along with this, he also learned miniaturization, a result of his successful taming. Recalling the dragon's skills from the game, he suddenly realized it could influence magic itself, but not all these abilities were yet available to him. Yet he realized that unlike in the game, this black dragon was still young and had not yet mastered all of its abilities. This meant that the more it grew, the more power it could give him. Thought that ignited admiration and determination in him. He decided that the black dragon needed a worthy name. Just like Gargoyle, after considering options, he decided. Finally, they decided to call it Noir. Give the mighty creature a worthy name that matched its power and majestic presence. After the black dragon was named Noir, he shared a moment with Geralt. He sincerely acknowledged that it was thanks to Geralt's support that he managed to secure such a powerful ally. Noir and Gargoyle were nearby. A strong trust arose between them. He is determined to face future trials together with his new allies. Gargoyle stopped miniaturizing and became huge again. Filled with new strength, he rushed to attack the enemy, ready to fight alongside his master in Noir. He recalled the game's explanation about the forest that curved like an arc. A place where evil magic converged attracted powerful monsters and even summoned demons. Unlike ordinary creatures, demons were beings of pure soul and magic from the demonic world, known for their unprecedented strength and cruelty, and he realized that the connection with them was much deeper than he would have liked. It turned out that Noir's hidden duty, the King of Magic, was to cleanse evil energy and prevent demons from being summoned. For years, he silently protected the people of this land from the shadows. The main hero accepted this mission and encouraged Noir to continue protecting everyone. The main hero established a connection with Noir and asked if the dragon would lend its power when the time came. Noir agreed and confirmed that the summoner and his beast, they remained forever connected by an unbreakable path. The bond between the summoner and his beast strengthened, so they sensed each other's danger and instantly rushed to help when needed. This bond suggested that he would unlock the ability to freely summon familiars, a skill that became more perfect with each tamed monster, as in the game, and after taming Noir. The main hero gained a colossal increase in stats and a powerful dragon's blessing. This victory was truly worth it, and when the battle ended, he, satisfied with his gains, prepared to return home with Geralt. The protagonist decided to test the new shrinking skill given to him by taming and directed it at Geralt. Suddenly, the huge wolf shrank to a tiny, chiba-like version of itself, and both were stunned by such a drastic change. The main character tried the miniature form of Geralt and was surprised to realize it was not only practical but also strangely cute. Holding now a small wolf cub, he understood that living with him in the estate would be much easier, although the sudden return to Geralt. The huge size of Intel reminded him of what this beast really was. Out of nowhere, a monstrous demon burst forth and, like an arrow, attacked the main character with terrible speed. He instantly jumped back, realizing what a stunning threat was looming over him. And understanding that this creature was not an ordinary opponent, the enemy turned out to be a gargoyle. This creature is B rank, upper sublevel. Its strength placed it on par with Noir. This made it a formidable opponent not to be underestimated. The gargoyle proved to be a real trouble, incredibly resistant to physical attacks, so ordinary strikes were almost useless. For someone wielding only a wooden sword, this was the worst opponent. Such speed ruled out thoughts of escape, so the only option was to fight it head-on. In the very heat of battle, Gargoyle rushed forward and cancelled the shrinking effect, returning again to the massive form with renewed size and strength. Gathering all his strength, he charged straight at the gargoyle, ready to strike with all his might. Gargoyle unleashed a destructive cyclone blast and mighty winds spiraled, rushing toward the gargoyle. When the dust swirled, the enemy suddenly jumped from above, trying to strike just when Geralt was focused on the attack. The boy quickly realized the gargoyle's weak spot is not physical blows but magic. While Gargoyle held back the enemy, he tensed and prepared to strike with spells, knowing that the battle would require endurance and accurate use of mid-level magic. While the battle raged, he felt his mana flowing more smoothly than ever, realizing that this was the effect of the dragon's blessing. He realized that control over magic had significantly strengthened, and with this new power, he felt as if he could cast spells far beyond the intermediate level. Breaking the course of the battle, the boy coordinated actions with Guerrero and rushed straight towards the Gargoyle. When the beast lunged in attack, Gargoyle diverted its attention, giving the boy a decisive chance. Concentrating his power, he activated the ability to become smaller. Preparing for a swift and unexpected counterattack, the boy unleashed a powerful wind spell, directing advanced magic granted by the dragon's blessing. From arrow burst, a high-level technique. He drove the gargoyle into a fierce whirlwind and covered it with pure, uncontrollable magical power. The spell unleashed a huge whirlpool. It burst through the battlefield with devastating force. He and Geralt stood frozen in shock, looking at the stunning power that far exceeded their expectations. When the forest parted, he stood in awe, looking at the traces of his magic. The once threatening gargoyle was gone one strike and it was completely destroyed. This stunningly proved the power granted by the dragon's grace. He realized that taming Noir had greatly expanded his mana and endowed him with incredible strength, a true gift from the pact with the King of Magic. With new confidence, he realized how incredible their bond had become, and Geralt stood proudly beside him. With refined sword skills after training and immense magic gained when he tamed Gargoyle and Noir, he felt that he was walking a path that would make him the strongest. With unwavering determination and new strength, he declared that step by step he would rise straight to the very top. A royal visit thundered through the estate. The guests were welcomed with open arms, though they appeared suddenly. They exchanged courtesies and assurances, and the gift from the Lord was solemnly presented. Princess Charlotte, the second princess, arrived at the Albion family to fulfill a previously given promise to teach swordsmanship, thus began her visit. Princess Charlotte came to the Albion house for the promised fencing lesson with Lest. Although others approached trying to please her, she still prioritized the meeting with Lest. He carefully led her to the great training hall. It was there that their training was supposed to begin. During the training, it was evident that their bond was much closer than any official positions. Princess Charlotte recalled how Elna had told her about Lest's duel. There, where he defeated Lord Edward and his ally, impressed, she praised his skill, unaware of the injustice he had to endure. Lest silently chose not to reveal the truth. Princess Charlotte firmly declared that she had been training hard for the past 2 weeks to face Lest. Not to lose so easily, let us confidently meet this challenge, and at the maid's signal. Their duel was about to begin, and Charlotte decisively launched an attack. Her strike was lightning fast and sharp. Lest easily parried her strike, feeling the power hidden behind her refined swordsmanship during the duel. Almost no one noticed how much Charlotte had grown in just 2 weeks. Once equal to Edward, she now far outpaced him. Among others, her rapid progress was impressive. He suddenly realized that her incredible growth reflected the true talent of the main heroine. After a fierce exchange, the duel was stopped. Charlotte was exhausted. She could not hide her surprise at how the gap between her and Les was widening despite all her exhausting training. She realized that his strength had grown at an incredible pace, much more than she had imagined. Instead of despairing, Charlotte, with a burning desire, asked to be taught the very training that made the weaker one strong. Her determination impressed him, but he hesitated. Knowing that he could not reveal the truth about taming or about the investigation in the forest, Les anxiously searched for an explanation he could share without revealing the truth. Remembering the training method from the game, he decided to present it as night training. Charlotte, eager to become better, asked him to make it as difficult as possible so she could catch up quickly. Finally, Charlotte began midnight training, weightlifting, sprints, refining manners, and prayers with sandbags on her shoulders. Although exhausting, this routine was meant to gradually improve her abilities, and she followed it resolutely. It was precisely then, when Charlotte was diligently training with sandbags, Stella spoke with admiration about Lest. His daily dedication and sword training impressed her. She reminded him that being a referee was part of her duties as Charlotte's servant, but asked him to address her more simply. To shorten the distance between them, Les agreed to call her Estelle. But he was a bit embarrassed because she was older. Estelle warmly thanked him, smiling with relief. Soon Charlotte was still full of energy after training. She impatiently asked what task she should take next, as she finished training earlier than expected. He gave little thought to how to spend the extra time. He thought about having tea but declined to avoid attracting unwanted guests. Instead, he suggested wandering together through the castle town. Charlotte was delighted at the thought of visiting the castle town and gladly agreed to go. With that, the next destination was decided, so the trio set off together to immerse themselves in the bustling streets of the castle town. When danger approached, Estelle offered to cover the princess while someone else dealt with the monsters. But Charlotte stubbornly insisted on fighting alongside them. She believed that against such a number of enemies it was safer for them if all three combined their forces. They decided to split up. Lest joined Charlotte to protect her in battle, while Estelle covered them from the other side. Filled with determination, Lest and Charlotte rushed forward together into the fight. He cut down enemies not so quickly, but did it so skillfully that the townspeople, sighing with relief at his appearance, were impressed. When their flank was cleared, he and Charlotte decided to gather with Estelle and continue the fight together. A sudden ambush caught Charlotte by surprise. A tiger with fangs appeared before her, a monster of the level of a mid-tier werewolf. Lest instantly sensed danger and prepared to intervene to back her up before the beast could strike. Suddenly another fanged tiger appeared, and its attack worked with clockwork precision. No problem, Lest reacted quickly. Unleashing a powerful blow, he knocked the beast back and cleared the way. Lest was ready to use wind magic but did not want to reveal his hidden power. But before he could do anything, Charlotte suddenly stepped forward, directed her magic, and he froze, stunned. Charlotte released a powerful holy arrow that hit the fanged tiger directly and with its incredible magic stopped its advance. Lest froze in surprise, watching how quickly Charlotte mastered holy magic. In just 2 weeks her control grew far beyond his expectations, proving her incredible natural talent, and Charlotte herself faced the fanged tiger. She unleashed the decisive holy strike. Her attack pierced the monster through. She demonstrated rapid growth and indomitable determination in battle. Charlotte successfully defeated fanged tiger, and the comrades burst into praise and sighed with relief. The group made sure everyone was safe and admired the impressive power the princess displayed. The townspeople joyfully celebrated Lest's victory, calling him their savior hidden among the crowd. The figure in the cloak looked suspiciously and did not understand how the one known only as the Tamer could suddenly reveal such power. He wondered, had he been hiding his true strength all along? The figure in the cloak smiled slyly, but before leaving the scene, he decided that Lest's unusual power deserved closer attention, a hint at hidden intentions and future troubles. Marquis pondered how he had sent Lest into the dangerous middle layers of the curved forest, expecting him to fail or be wounded. But every day fewer returned unscathed and satisfied, and this aroused suspicion. How could someone supposedly only? Who would have thought that a useless taming skill could achieve such feats? The Marquis was shocked when he heard these words at the end. The princess defeated the monster that appeared in the city, and everyone sighed with relief. They were safe. Anxiety crept in. He feared that Lest's growing fame would someday draw suspicion to him if something happened. When time was pressing and she feared that her recognition would stop growing, the main star decided to act. He decided to send Lest into the very depths of the forest. The place was so deadly dangerous that even a sword saint could die there, and he hoped it would finally put an end to him. The Marquis, irritated that Lest survived, convinced himself that this time the boy would not escape death. Yet still, doubts did not recede, so he came up with a darker plan. Hire a killer and ensure Lest's death in the deepest layers, where no evidence would remain. Sign screamed wildly, accusing Lest of endangering his position and convincing himself that his plan was flawless. But his vile scheme was interrupted by an unexpected yes. A voice agreed with him and made everyone freeze when someone showed themselves in the room. A mysterious woman in a cloak appeared before the sign, pointed to a gap in his plan, and was shocked that he did not sense her presence. He still demanded to know who she was, and she only smiled confidently and suggested a different approach to his plan. The woman in the cloak approached the sign so closely that her presence filled all his senses. His mind darkened and thoughts scattered as her influence enveloped him. She made him unable to resist. Under her power, he slowly surrendered, agreeing with her words and unaware that he was being manipulated. The woman in the cloak declared that everything was ready. With that sign, he was now under her control. She hinted at a hidden secret. She linked it to Lest Albion and stated that she herself would expose it, while keeping the Marquis oppressed and submissive to her will. The next day, Charlotte and her companions shortened their visit after the monster attack. They were not in the mood for entertainment. She decided it would be safer to leave earlier, in case the attack was aimed specifically at her. Charlotte and her group decided to return home using a teleportation magic circle, a system in the main churches of the city that instantly transports people over long distances. They prepared to teleport from the church in the castle city of Albion, a step even kings rarely take due to the high magical cost, clearly showing how serious the situation was. Lest thoughtfully looked at the teleportation circles, comparing them to the fast travel systems in games he often used, which usually only unlocked later in the storyline. Before leaving, Lest assured Charlotte that she had truly grown up. She could not help but admire how impressively she and her partner had advanced in both fencing and magic. Charlotte gladly promises. She does this to become even stronger thanks to the new training method she mastered, shortly after she left. Father called Les to himself, and he felt something important awaited ahead. Father ordered Les to go alone into the deepest thickets of the Arst forest. This place was known as extremely dangerous, and when he realized this, it became clear Father harbors fierce hostility towards him. Gad pretends to be concerned, announces that Les will not go alone, and arranges for a guard to accompany him. He began to suspect less the true intentions of his father. She is a woman named Lav. A B-rank adventurer steps forward and introduces herself as the guard. He will go with Lest into this dangerous forest. Lav, whom Marquis Albion assigned to guard Lest, immediately sees how worried he is. But he quickly brushed it off as if nothing had happened, assuring that he was fine. Lest's father strictly orders him to accept protection for his own safety. Lest agrees. Although doubtful, he agreed to be accompanied by Love. Lest accepts Lav as his guardian. Together, they set off into the deepest parts of the forest. About an hour passes and they find themselves in the middle tier of the Ulst forest. He recalls how Gad said he hired an adventurer as a guard, but something doesn't add up here. Looking around, he realized she could only be here for one of two reasons, and both seem quite unlikely. These are the two possibilities he suspects. Either they are preparing to kill him and cover it up as an accident, or they are investigating how a person with only taming skills could even explore this forest. Whatever the case, he sees her as an enemy. Meanwhile, she decided to hide her true powers, primarily not using wind magic and Gargoyle. Going deeper into the forest, he is surprised to notice that they have not yet encountered a single monster. He moves cautiously to avoid fights, focusing only on the investigation ordered by his father, and she pretends to be impressed and praises his approach. When they step into the deeper part of the forest, she suddenly feels a changed magical energy around has become different. After a long walk through the depths, having encountered no monsters, they both remain on alert. Suddenly she gives a sign SHH, be quiet. He notices an orc general nearby. The Orang monster, known for leading other creatures, quickly estimated the number of enemies and decided, it's not worth rushing into battle. Suddenly they are noticed by a group of almost 10 orcstal and ordinary. Each alone is weak, but their number makes them dangerous. Knowing that Gorilla cannot be used, he prepares to go to the front line and tells Ray to cover him with magic as soon as she gets a chance, and she agrees, hiding her true power. He throws himself into the group, quickly grabbing the attention of the orcs, and without hesitation becomes the bait. Meanwhile, Ray prepares magic and gives a sign that she is ready to strike. He gives the signal, and she prepares to release her spell. Ray casts his spell, throws the fire spear with all his might. The blazing strike passed through the orcs, causing one to howl in pain when it hit. As the orcs retreated from the fiery attack, he rushed forward and with one clean, powerful strike knocked down the orc general. After the battle, Ray enthusiastically praises him. But he modestly says that he was only bait, she asks. She praises him even more and then suddenly asks to step away. He looks puzzled but agrees, thinking to himself that it is probably due to some personal reason. After waiting a bit, he starts to get nervous. Ray has been absent for too long, and just as he is about to go look for her, he notices that the forest has become unnaturally quiet. Even the birdsong has disappeared. Something is wrong here. Suddenly, a giant ogre appears before him. He freezes in shock. This is not just an ordinary monster, but this is an A-rank mid-level ogre, one of the district bosses of the deep layer. Its appearance here makes no sense. Standing before him is an ogre, the second most powerful creature in the Ulseed forest, surpassed only by the black dragon. In the original game world, such monsters appeared only in certain zones, and now, seeing it here, he wondered, has the game turned into reality, or is this something much more serious? The ogre suddenly lunged with stunning force, thrust its weapon into the ground, and raised a huge shockwave. The blow nearly hit him as he dashed to the side, trying to dodge. He realizes the ogre's strength is the same as in the original game. Although he once defeated a higher-level B-rank Gargoyle, this A-rank mid-level ogre is a completely different league. After A-rank, the difficulty jumps enormously, so this fight is much more dangerous than anything he has ever encountered. He feels horror at the huge gap in strength, just one rank difference and the fight seems hopeless. Unlike gargoyles, which had a weakness for magic, ogres have no such vulnerability. They are strong both in attack and defense with high endurance, so they are very hard to bring down. He barely dodges another devastating blow. And he understands the only way out is direct combat. But even with his current strength, bringing down a lower A-rank monster would already be difficult, and this mid-level ogre is completely beyond his capabilities. Cornered, he realizes victory is impossible unless he reveals his secret, the very power of taming that he has kept hidden until now. He decides to call Geralt because he knows this is the only chance to survive this clash. Geralt bursts onto the battlefield, radiating formidable power. Wasting no time, he charges together with his beast, resolutely determined to end the fight with one decisive strike. The ogre lunges forward again, smashing the ground with devastating force, but this time Gargoyle swiftly dodges, calmly and precisely preparing a counterattack. He is ready to strike back. He hits precisely. A cyclonic explosion crashes into the ogre's face, but even after such a powerful blow, the monster barely flinched. As befits an A-rank beast, it is incredibly resilient. The ogre's counterattack tossed him into the air, but instead of panicking, he smiles, already thinking ahead and preparing to turn this into an opportunity. Soaring in the air, he shouted to Gargoyle, "Attack!" The beast lunged forward and bit into the ogre, catching him by surprise. Despite the powerful blow, Gargoyle looks stunned. It won't be easy to bring him down. As expected, the ogre proved to be extremely resilient. His body is constantly strengthened by powerful magic, so neither physical blows nor spells have much effect. Only an all-out attack can wound him. He understands that to break through, he will have to go all in. He throws himself into the attack with all his might, chopping at full force, while Gargoyle pushes from the side, adding all his strength to the strike. He delivers the decisive blow and lunges straight at the ogre, determined to break through his defense. Up close, he releases the wind slash, cutting the ogre's chest with a powerful strike. The attack finally hits with such force that the monster staggered in pain. The wind tore through the ogre and he howled in pain as he predicted. The attack was powerful enough to break through his enhanced defense. Now wounded and disoriented, the ogre begins to stagger unsteadily. Enraged by the wound, the ogre goes berserk and strikes the ground with all his might, focusing all his attention on it. He suddenly realizes the beast is now completely focused on him, giving a narrow window to seize the flow of battle. The ogre completely ignores Gargoyle, now fully concentrated on him. Now, assuming the beast poses no threat, he speaks. This is a smart move if Gargoyle really couldn't cause harm, but such an assumption could cost the ogre everything. He turned to the yogurt and sternly warned, "Do not underestimate Geralt." At that moment, Geralt strikes with all his might, completely catching the ogre by surprise and trying to turn the tide of the battle. The ogre froze in shock when Gargoyle rushed forward. He reveals the secret: Gargoyle can also use wind cover and unleash the wind slash. The ogre had no idea this would happen. He says that although Geralt's wind strike is not yet perfect, it is already enough to be a real threat. With a confident smile, he taunts the ogre. Now no one can ignore Gargoyle. Angry and now fully aware of Geralt's presence, the ogre let out a deafening roar and launched a powerful, reckless attack, determined to crush them both at once. He sincerely praises Gargoyle for turning the course of events. The ogre focused all his attention solely on him. Rushing off Gargoyle is a harmless mistake that now makes the fight much easier. When Geralt became strong enough to deal real damage, the fight turned upside down. The ogre is forced to split his attention between the two of them. His combat effectiveness drops by half and he switches to defense. The ogre is stunned. He boldly bursts in with a confident smile and directly challenges him. Under Gargoyle's pressure from behind, he forces the monster to decide who is the real threat now. The ogre is stunned and trapped between two threats. He rushed to finish him off. With Gargoyle nearby, he prepares to strike together, ready to show the monster who really has the upper hand now. In perfect sync mode, he and Geralt simultaneously activate wind coding, and their power explodes to the limit, ready to deliver the final coordinated strike. Below, their combined strike hits Gargoyle straight and deep as he cuts through them, leaving the ogre stunned and bleeding. The huge monster fell back, unable to keep his balance. After the fight, a system message appeared on the screen: Wind Slash has reached a new level, and his taming ability has increased, so he can tame one more creature. Smiling, he sincerely praises Gargoyle for a job well done. Now it is possible to tame up to 3 creatures. He suddenly realized that he had already achieved his goal in the forest. There were no more monsters worthy of battle here, and he wondered what to do next. One of the creatures he had previously tamed was Noir. This had been part of his original plan since he was reincarnated as Rest. He smiled thoughtfully. Gargoyle was not in his original plans, but turned out to be an excellent result. Although an ogre would be well suited for taming, that was no longer an option. It had already been defeated. Still, he understands there are other, much more important monsters ahead that he should focus on. He considers his next move, but encounters a problem. There are no monsters he wants to tame near Albion's territory. Moreover, it would be almost impossible to explain everything to Gad. While he is pondering a solution, Gargoyle suddenly senses something nearby. Feeling the fight, Ray rushed back to check if he was all right. She is stunned to see the ogre's corpse and realizes the scale of the battle that just took place. Her reaction shows that she had no idea such a threat was nearby. Ray is stunned with shock upon seeing a fallen ogre of rank A and immediately decides that he defeated it single-handedly. He makes a trivial matter out of it, says the monster was already weakened and he only finished it off. She sees claw marks of the beast and believes his story, while he quietly observes her reaction. Ray thinks that a stronger monster is still hiding nearby, the one that almost killed that ogre. She says, "Let's end the investigation for today," and he agrees. As soon as they were about to leave, she suddenly handed him something and asked him to wait a moment. She hands him a potion for fatigue and says it is for safety. He swallows it unsuspecting, but immediately after that he begins to feel strange. Something is clearly wrong. He laughs coldly. Truth surfaced, he drank a potion laced with paralyzing poison. She mockingly laughs at his naivety, saying it is pathetic he believed her so easily. Helpless and stunned, he is forced to listen as she prepares to reveal her true intent. She reveals her real name, Riebe, one of the highest commanders of the Demon King's army, and smiles confidently. She, with a cold smile, says she will kill him herself now that he is paralyzed and defenseless. Riebe mocks him as he writhes helplessly on the ground, paralyzed, teasing him by asking how the poison tastes and adds another cruel jab. She asks if his parents ever taught him not to take drinks from strangers. Her confidence is visible in every glance. She already considers herself the winner. Riebe mocks his parents, cruelly reminding him that they didn't even teach him simple caution. She reveals the whole truth. All the recent attacks by monsters and orcs are her doing. It was a trap from the very beginning to test and observe his hidden power. Riebe admits she has been watching him closely for a long time and confirms her suspicions. He used a monster to defeat the ogre. She drops a hint about why she is interested, but at the last moment retreats and says nothing more. Riebe, with a smug expression, mocks the rest, though she herself is in a weak state. She tells him to blame his failure, implying she is ready to finish him off without mercy, even though a moment ago she was paralyzed. Rest suddenly stands up and speaks in a calm voice. Riebe is stunned. Her face instantly froze in shock when she realized that something was going off her plan. Riebe panics, shocked that the rest might move. The calm Rest reveals the truth: he was never really paralyzed. Her confidence shatters when she realizes she was deceived. The Rest reveals the truth behind his immunity. Dragon's blessing, it works so that he is not only resistant to status effects like paralysis, but also has enhanced control over magic. He indifferently admits that without this he wouldn't drink the potion, and Riebe boils with rage, realizing her plan has completely failed. Rest confesses from the very beginning he knew Riebe's true identity and intentions, deliberately pretended, and went deep into the forest just to expose her. Shocked and enraged, Riebe insists that her plan was flawless and no ordinary person could have figured it out. But Rest interrupts her tirade with a quiet but profound word: 1,000 years ago, hinting that there is much more to him than he shows. 1,000 years ago, a terrible war broke out between humans and demons. At first, the Demon King had the advantage, but everything changed when suddenly a hero and a divine dragon appeared and turned the tide of battle. A moment before his soul was to be sealed, the Demon King made his last move. He split it into 10 fragments and sent them into the future to prepare for the final battle that would unfold long after his defeat. Rest Albion reveals the truth: fragments of the Demon King's soul accidentally scattered among the newborns, and the demon army seeks to gather these fragments to resurrect him. Albion himself carries one of those fragments, which awakened power in him and transformed a once useless skill into the ability to command monsters. Riebe suddenly realized that Rest used an ogre to confirm whether she also carries a fragment of the Demon King's soul. She accuses him, claiming he tried to steal it from her. Rest coolly explains that the poison does not kill but paralyses, because killing her could lead to the disappearance of the fragment. Rest coldly states that among the Demon King's executors, Riebe is one of the weakest. As soon as she heard this, she trembled with irritation, unable to hide either anger or shame. Riebe panics, stunned by how much others know. She demands an explanation, her voice trembling. Calm and radiant with power, he simply replies, "Of course I know." This shocked her even more. Rest reveals the real reason why he knows so much. Riebe is the one who killed him in the game. Although she now calls herself Rav, he recognized her at first glance. From the very beginning, he restrained the urge to approach and meet her face to face, waiting for the right moment. In the original story, Riebe stole a fragment of the Demon King's soul from Rest and absorbed it. This gave her a temporary jump to S-rank power and enhanced skills, but her body could not withstand the power of the fragment and fainted ultimately. Riebe could not handle the Demon King's soul fragment. Died from overload, he was blown to smithereens. In the original story, Riebe killed Rest and tore out his soul shard, but by absorbing it, she herself died. Her death destroyed the shard and thereby weakened the future Demon King. After her dramatic death, Riebe somehow became a fanfiction favorite. She even earned the nickname Smithereens-chan. When everything calmed down, memories suddenly filled with nostalgia. For Riebe, his knowledge was eerily deep, much more than an ordinary person should know. Rest brushed off Riebe's demand for answers, saying she was simply unlucky. An enraged Riebe exploded and is preparing to mercilessly beat the truth out of him. Riebe, furious, is preparing to torture the rest to extract answers from them. Releasing all her power, Riebe activates her unique ability TR. She tries to invoke transformation magic, but Rest unexpectedly says he already knows about it, and this throws her off balance. Riebe got angry. He releases all her magic and launches a merciless attack. The others tense up. A fierce attack is approaching. Rest understands that the fight has just become truly serious. Although it was quiet at first, Riebe's power as a confirmed executive-class threat does not let him relax. Riebe's power is comparable to high A-rank enemies. Physically, she is not stunning, but her unique ability makes her much more dangerous than the ogre the others just fought. And the rest is quickly consumed. Riebe's sudden strike caught him off guard. He is thrown into the air before he can recover. The magic of visibility transition allows her to transform magical energy. To transform power into material things, say swords, and with the same ease return them back. Riebe's magic is so dangerous that direct contact without protection would instantly tear his body apart and kill him, despite any limitations. Riebe's magic is still too dangerous. Rest understands that he will not win this battle alone. Rest called Gargoyle to come to his aid. The Riebe was not scared at all. She is already preparing for what will come next. Riebe mocks his summoner, unleashing a storm of BL. She raised the blades, making it clear that she could not be defeated so easily. Rest feels to win he needs to get up close. Because of Riebe's deadly magic, it is too risky. He warns Gargoyle, do not stop, keep moving and avoid contact. Survival depends on dodging, not on taking hits. Riebe allows the opponent to build overly precise strategies, and it annoys him terribly. He smiles confidently and sincerely says that such a compliment is a true honor for him. Riebe rushed forward, swiftly launching several magical spears. A hail of magical weapons is pouring from the sky. The main hero fights side by side with Gargoyle, barely holding his ground in battle. He understands that from this distance, he has no chance of victory. He needs to get closer. Suddenly, he realizes he must close the distance. The hero signals to Gargoyle. The beast lunges at Riebe, catching her by surprise and giving a chance. Riebe deflects Gargoyle's attack with light confidence, sure it won't affect her, but at that moment the main hero suddenly sneaks up behind her and catches her off guard. Riebe is surprised. He approaches her, although he knows about her deadly ability. But he decisively rushes forward, full of confidence. As long as he is not caught, he has a chance. He recalls training with Elna and bets on speed instead of strength. He cuts relentlessly and gives Riebe no chance to react. Caught off guard, Riebe notices how much his style has changed compared to before. Riebe is noticeably pushed back by the pressure, but he remains calm and watches her closely. When they collide, he realizes that her true danger lies in that strange ability she constantly relies on. Riebe realizes if she manages to keep the fight up close, she has a real chance to win, so she tries to block and respond instantly. But he relentlessly goes on the offensive, forcing her to defend along with her beast. When the swords rain down from above, the boy quickly warned Gargoyle. The beast reacts at the last moment and covers them both from the approaching attack. Even after being thrown back, Riebe gets up again, refusing to admit defeat. The aura around her flares up as she purrs. She prepares to release another wave of sword magic, proving that she is far from finished. Riebe rushes forward with overwhelming pressure and says that any ordinary mage at such a distance would be powerless. The boy tense, stunned by her sudden approach. Riebe covers everything with loud magic without uttering a single spell, thus showing his unique fighting style. The boy remains calm and orders Gargoyle to continue attacking, staying out of reach. The battle became incredibly close. One wrong move and everything could end. Riebe begins to lose sharpness and barely maintains control. Even with all her magic, her mind cannot keep up with the pressure. He presses harder and harder, waiting for the perfect moment to strike, finally launching the spell Cyclone. But Riebe mocks him and now casts spells on her own territory for her. This is a foolish move. Suddenly he throws a blast not to harm but to create a smoke screen. Riebe suddenly froze and immediately understood. He is no longer visible. The enemy disappeared from sight. Gargoyle and the main hero move in unison. He is now signaling, and Gargoyle jumps out to attack. The boy shouted sharply and loudly to Gargoyle, "Retreat." Riebe begins to utter a dangerous spell, and immediately a blinding light exploded around her as she activated a powerful spell. The boy froze in amazement as she calmly pronounced the code of the final transition. He and Gargoyle froze, realizing this is not just another attack, this is something serious. Riebe fully reveals her presence, calm, unwavering, and full of power. The boy watches with keen eyes, already knowing what will happen. "Queen of magical power," he muttered. As the wind and pressure intensify, he realizes she is using her most powerful ability. Riebe activates her final form, Queen of Magical Power, releasing every spark of magic that was within her. The boy instantly recognizes this move. It is the same final technique she had in the game. The air trembles as her magic bursts forth at full power. No doubt, she is giving her all. Riebe takes a step forward, enveloped in stunning power. She is clad in the armor of destruction, which turns everything it touches into pure magical energy. This is not just her last form, but a true trump card, and the fight has just entered its most dangerous phase. Riebe smiled slyly, delighted that she had to pull out her most powerful move against him. But Albion knows this is his only chance. He launches Arrow Burst, a high-level wind spell, to stop her before she fully takes control, and he does not retreat even before her overwhelming power. Riebe indifferently waved off the powerful spell, mocking Albion for aiming it at her face. Albion understands, to bring her down, he will need more than just brute magic. Riebe stands untouchable in the Queen of Magic state. No magic can penetrate her. Albion and Garou know that even a touch now means instant death. In the game, this form led to self-destruction when mixed with a fragment of the Demon King's soul. If she loses control here, everything around them could be erased. Although Riebe activated her strongest form, Albion quickly calculates her weak spot. She does not yet have a fragment of the Demon King's soul. Without that enhancement, her power is weaker than in the game, and simply being in this form quickly drains her magic and stamina. Albion sees a chance. He just needs to wait her out and strike accurately. Riebe bursts in at full speed, and Albion instantly responds. He wraps his legs in wind and is lifted by wind magic, empowering himself. Speed is on his side. He stays slightly ahead of her strike. Albion tries to keep his distance, saving himself with speed, but Riebe mocks his attempt. Calling it foolishness, she releases a powerful magical volley toward him, and he didn't have time to prepare. The force and speed of the attack caught him by surprise. Albion suddenly realizes Riebe's attack is actually whips formed from her destruction armor. If they hit for him, it's like her touch, instant death. Albion confirms that his wind magic is stronger, and he manages to repel Riebe's attack. Riebe, stunned by how easily her power was blocked, prepares to counterattack and says that miracles will no longer save him. Riebe launches a barrage of attacks. Albion is caught off guard and instantly calls Garou for help. Albion told Garou to endure. The attacks are coming, and Garou began to shrink to dodge. Albion was thrown back, irritated by this difficult situation. Albion dodges the attacks. He thought about how the Riebe form Queen of Magic spends all her magic and harms herself, and knew he just had to hold on until she reached her limit. The longer the fight lasts, the more Riebe's endurance and magic drain. Albion knows they cannot make mistakes, and everything will be decided by who breaks first. Albion and Geralt cannot counterattack. They just circle around, tensely searching for any chance. Riebe watches closely, taunts Albion, and tells him to surrender, but he does not retreat a step. Both sides are exhausted, breathing heavily, standing opposite each other in the middle of the ruined forest. Neither side retreats, so she teases her opponent. She says she must take a shard of the Demon King's soul and that it was hard for her to hold back from killing him, then mocks him. He has no strength left at all. The man, though exhausted, replies that she is in the same state. She admits she is worn out, but is confident this is enough to finish him off in his weakened state. Riebe mockingly looks at him and says, "You only endured, hoping my ma would run out, but that never happened." She declares a huge gap between us and demonstrates her advantage. The man silently admits her words are true. The outcome of the fight was decided from the very beginning. The man quickly assessed the situation and understood. He and Geralt had almost no magic left, but Riebe still had plenty. He knows they will not survive another barrage of her attacks, despite exhaustion and clearly uneven odds. When the tension subsides, he clings to a barely noticeable determination and says that now everything is in its place. He calmly asks Riebe the last question, confident and with a slight smile. She agrees to listen, boasting about her excellent mood. The man reminds her that he had said earlier he had figured out all her plans and deliberately manipulated events so that everything would lead to this moment. Riebe admits his words turned out to be true and it annoys him, but at the same time impresses him. Intrigued, she asks why he told her about his plan instead of attacking earlier. He explains that upon learning who she really is, he got a chance to attack by surprise. But he decided not to do it. Letting events take their course was much more convenient for his own strategy. The man explains that if Riebe had noticed her vulnerability earlier, she would have gone on the defensive and fled, and then he would never have been able to defeat her. Instead, he deliberately deceived her by revealing that his true goal from the very beginning was to lure her into their territory. Riebe asks what he means by territory, thinking it refers to getting acquainted with the area. She waved it off, calling it a trifle, and the man corrected her, saying that she did not understand the true meaning. He reminds her how he previously managed to avoid paralysis, hinting that it was not an accident but part of a grand plan she had yet to discern. Riebe screams in despair, brushing off his words and assuring that paralysis is not frightening to him. Poison means nothing to him, but when he responds calmly, she freezes in shock. Reveals that the real reason for his resistance was not a countermeasure, but a divine blessing. Standing next to his enormous companion, the man with a cocky smile declares that the demon army should already know the power of his blessing. Riebe's eyes widen in disbelief as she finally realizes the truth. The man says that the blessing he spoke of comes from the most powerful being ruling over this land. It is a power far greater than anything she had ever imagined, and Riebe screams in panic that what he is talking about is impossible. She understands that in this land only one being can grant such a powerful blessing, and the shocking truth begins to overwhelm her. Her eyes widen in disbelief. A powerful aura swept across the battlefield, shaking the ground and cleansing the place. Riebe froze in shock as the realization struck her. An extraordinary presence before her confirmed it. Trembling, she whispered in disbelief, unable to accept the truth she was facing. Riebe covered herself as a huge shadow descended from above, and her eyes opened wide in horror. She recognized it, the black dragon. The man with a confident smile welcomes the appearance of the creature. His true trump card was finally revealed, and Riebe froze in horror as the face of the black dragon loomed just inches from her own. The man's voice, cold as ice, echoes, "She has stepped into the domain of the black dragon. From here there is no escape." Riebe was caught silent when a huge black dragon descended before her. The man proudly lifts his gaze and sees that the Noir has grown from 10 to 15 meters since he first tamed it, a clear sign of their strength, bond, and power. The man recalls how Riebe, pretending to be the traveler Rav, approached him with hidden intentions. Exposing her deception, he turned her plan against herself and since then decided to get rid of her himself. Realizing that letting her go would doom everything to the worst possible end. He understands if Riebe breaks free and reveals her special powers of taming the demon army, it will seriously put him at a disadvantage. Knowing he is not yet strong enough to oppose the higher commanders of the army, he decides, defeating Riebe here and now is the only way to prevent this. He remembers, in the game Riebe attacked only when all his tamed monsters were defeated, thus she demonstrated her cautious nature. She never starts a fight unless she is sure she will win. Even in her official profile it was written that she is proud but cautious, firmly attached to life, and it was this trait he used to predict every her move. He admits when the ogre attacked earlier, he already knew it was part of Riebe's plan but still decided to play along with her. Instead of running away or calling the Noir to instantly crush it, he fought. Only Gargoyle was nearby and he barely snatched victory. This whole struggle was deliberate, a carefully thought-out performance to deceive Riebe and instill false confidence in her. While secretly preparing a reserve paralytic poison, he was leading her to dangerous overconfidence. Confident that she could defeat him, Riebe took the bait, revealed her true self, and openly challenged him just as he had planned. Riebe, without hesitation, unleashed her most powerful force, the Queen of Magical Power. But every step of hers unfolded exactly as he had planned. Knowing the mechanics of the game and her caution, he skillfully manipulated events and controlled the fight from the very beginning. Even during the ogre's attack, he anticipated such a development and had already set 2 additional traps. Using the bond formed during taming, long before the battle, he secretly asked Noir to come to help. The black dragon silently hid, completely concealing its presence until the perfect moment to strike came. Everything he planned, every trap and every calculated move came down to one moment to defeat Riebe once and for all, here and now. The man calmly raises his eyes and tells Riebe that the black dragon before her is his tamed creature. Shocked, she looks, not believing her eyes. She cannot accept that such a mighty creature is under his control. With determination in his eyes, the man raises his sword and proclaims, "If Riebe calls herself the Queen of Magical Power, then he will stand against her as the King of Magical Power." The man calls Noir, commanding the black dragon to unleash its power. A dark vortex arises as the creature activates the armor of destruction. Riebe looks in horror, screams, not believing, as the unstoppable force of destruction begins to devour everything in its path. Riebe struggles against the overwhelming power. Her magic fiercely clashes with the might of the dragon, and even while defending, she cannot believe that a mere human could command such a terror. Riebe desperately tries to resist the crushing force of Noir's attack. Her magic bursts out in wild flashes, panic fills her eyes, and her spells begin to crack under the pressure. Realizing the fight is slipping out of her control, she whispered in disbelief, "This was not supposed to happen." As the dust settles among the cracked earth, a figure remains on their knees, slowly rising, shaken but still standing. She drops to her knees on the broken ground, trembling and drenched in sweat. The immense power that stood before her overwhelms her. Barely standing, she feels her strength nearly gone. Nearby, the opponent stands calm and composed, watching as it becomes clear she can no longer continue the fight, despite the exhaustion. She forces herself to move forward and rushes across the shattered battlefield. The young man watches intently and calls out. In response, two beasts instantly launch an attack. One leaps from above, the other flies forward with jaws wide open to intercept her. The whirlwind tearing the earth is caught between their attacks. She tenses as the strike reverberates around her, blades of force hitting her, but she plants her feet firmly and pushes back with both hands. Energy cuts through the field, slicing the air, and she, gritting her teeth, endures the relentless onslaught and refuses to give up despite the overwhelming pressure. A burst of energy explodes around her, but the young man calmly steps forward, completely unfazed. She looked back with distrust, and fury flared in her eyes. He replies with quiet confidence, certain the fight is already decided. The swirling wind compresses into a dense vortex, layers of condensed magic stacking upon each other, and the young man, standing opposite, lowers his defensive stance and grips his sword tightly, showing that defense is no longer necessary. True power concentrates in his hands. The whirlwind over the blade grows as he pours every last bit of magic into it. The force thickens sharply, twisting the air. Opposite him, she stares in shock, realizing that the attack forming before her is unlike anything she has ever faced. When the vortex is fully formed, he raises the blade, eyes shining, and the condensed magic stabilizes. The scale of this power distorts the air around them. She only looks in horror at the overwhelming force looming and ready to strike. The storm blade roars above him, its destructive power rivaling the full breath of a dragon. As he swings, the condensed power builds with the speed of the strike and unleashes a devastating wave that tears through the battlefield. He lunges forward, sword ready, embodying both swordsman and tamer. The power he forged from nothing pierces him, and memories of merciless training flash before his eyes. Finally, he puts everything into his sword and throws himself into the decisive strike. The wind fiercely swirls around the blade, no longer a thin cutting edge, but a wild stream. What was initially a precise cut turns into a wild stream. The air itself sharpens into a devastating storm rushing downward. Her eyes widen in disbelief, because the storm crushes and tears everything in its path, and she realizes too late that this is a strike meant to break even the strongest defense. He lowers the blade to the storm, and a giant gust of wind crashes to the ground. The strike shatters the battlefield, throws her away, and carves a deep scar into the earth. As the dust slowly settles, she lies beaten but alive. He stands over the ruins, calm and composed, quietly acknowledging her resilience as she struggles to rise from the debris. He stands firm in his decision. As she struggles to get up and questions his intentions, he hesitates for a moment. Her human appearance sows doubt in him, but he does not retreat from his decision. He looks at her with an unwavering gaze, understanding that the road ahead may claim the lives of both demons and humans. Accepting the harsh reality of this world, he decides at that moment. Seeing her lying wounded among the rubble, he will end this quickly, and this finally strengthens his resolve. Lying on her back, she defiantly declares her pride and refuses to beg for mercy, even though she has been defeated. He froze, feeling a sudden change in the air. A barely noticeable gap appears beside, and he tightens his sword, ready for an unexpected change. Pressed against the broken ground, her endurance crumbles, panic covers her thoughts, pride yields to bare fear, and desperately wishing to live, she silently begs for mercy, ready to give everything for survival. While she lies defeated on the broken ground, a message appears before him. She can now be tamed. With the sword in hand, he stands silently, hesitating with the choice while the battlefield quiets. The message hangs before him, offering him a choice to tame her. Confusion flashed across his face as he remembered that demons in the game could never be tamed, only rare monsters under special conditions. Looking down at her, he cannot comprehend what has changed. This power was never part of the original rules, and he recalled the conditions for taming. The target must be defeated and voluntarily submit. Demons are incredibly strong, so fulfilling both requirements is almost impossible. Looking at her now, pride broken, survival instinct exposed. He suddenly realizes how rare this moment is among demons of her level. He acknowledges her transformation magic as extremely flexible and useful, though it has its limits against stronger enemies. On his side are already two powerful beings adding another type of magic, and the balance may be shaken. In the end, he understood, the only uncertainty is her will and whether she will truly submit. Standing over her, he declares that he has a proposal. He makes it clear he will not tolerate betrayal, not even the slightest hint. Then, meeting her gaze, he said that her life could be spared. It all entirely depends on her answer. At first, she snorted disdainfully and refused to accept the enemy's offer, but after a moment, her voice changes. She agrees at least to listen to him. He silently looks at her, urging her to speak while tension hangs between them. He stops pretending, speaks simply, and calmly asks if she is ready to serve him. He admits that his taming power subdues not only monsters but also demons, and offers to take her among his followers. Her eyes widen in shock at that hint. She smiles crookedly, admitting that the offer is not so bad, but doubts whether he can truly trust her. Calmly, she says she can submit now and then betray him, but he remains steadfast and waits for her answer without hesitation. Although pride does not allow her to bow her head, her heart already cries out for salvation. She wants to agree immediately and grasp life at any cost, even if she cannot say it aloud. He penetrates through her hesitation, showing that he sees her heart and reminds her why she lost. Calmly, he says that resistance is pointless. Stunned, she protests distrustfully, but the truth about her fear has already become evident. Her hidden thoughts spoke aloud. Exposing her desperate pleas to survive, he calmly watches, satisfied with how she flinched. Stunned, she grabs her head and panics, her fear exposed, and he quietly says that all he needed was to make her believe it. Even without reading thoughts, a special thread arises between him and those he tames. Through it, emotions and intentions are transmitted, and he can set boundaries by sending commands along this thread. He thinks that with those he trusted, this ability was never needed, but in this situation it proves invaluable. If she ever contemplates betrayal, he will feel it instantly and respond without hesitation. He calmly explains that the bond formed during taming leaves no room for deception. Any lie or intention to betray will instantly reach him through this bond, and he will destroy her without hesitation. For him, this is simply how this ability works, clearly, absolutely, and mercilessly. Cornered and fully aware of her situation, she finally ceases resistance. Pride yields. Survival is more important, so she agrees to serve him if it means staying alive. Though she tries to hide it with a defiant posture, her despair is visible as if on the palm. In the silence of the ruined battlefield, the balance of power this time changed not by force but by choice. He gently placed his hand on her head, sealing their unspoken agreement. With her head lowered, she accepts her fate without resistance. With a barely noticeable smile, he commands her to abandon former loyalty and henceforth dedicate herself only to him. A flash of light erupted between them when his hand touched her head. Power rolled through the new bond and sealed the contract. Her body involuntarily shuddered and fell silent as the bond stabilized. The pact was made. She is now bound to him. Dark energy pours like rain as the contract completes. Part of her power transfers to him and settles in his body, awakening new abilities, transition magic, and with the third successful taming comes the skill of imitation. Standing in the dimmed glow, he examines his hands and feels his power deepen once again. Unexpectedly, a new skill opens up: mimicry. By spending magical power, he can partially change the appearance of himself or those he has tamed. A spark of admiration flickers on his face as he realizes its potential. Although serious transformations are impossible, subtle changes, hair color or eye shape, are quite feasible. Noticing its flexibility, he understands that this ability could become invaluable in the future. Stunned, she clasps her head with her hands, trying to accept her new reality. He sincerely admits that he himself is still trying to figure it out, but believes she will get used to it over time. Putting that aside, he returned to his other companions, the dragon and the wolf, and the quiet forest gently lowered its silence over them. He quietly smiles and thanks his comrades, acknowledging that victory was only possible thanks to their strength and support. The dragon bowed its head, the wolf barked proudly, their voices rolled across the quiet battlefield. He says goodbye to the dragon, which spreads its wings and rises into the sky, leaving the clearing behind, while the wolf stands nearby, tail raised, and the forest falls silent again. And the battle ended. He announced that they were returning to the manor, addressed his new subordinate, called her, and pulled her forward. She reluctantly walked, protesting. Meanwhile, the group retreats together from the ravaged battlefield. They walk through the forest, and behind them looms a massive wolf. Although he managed to tame her, he realized the real problem is keeping her close. Even when the connection gave him the right to give orders and set restrictions, distance could cause betrayal or unexpected problems. Deciding that it was safer this way, he keeps her at hand and does not allow her to stray. Walking through the forest, he even considers placing her in one of those dimensional dwellings like the others, but she immediately protests, outraged that she is being treated like a pet. The wolf growls in response, and this only makes her complaints worse. Unmoved, he says that the other option is to spend the night in the forest. Faced with this, she quickly backs down and demands a normal room in the city, and he sighs at her stubbornness, already understanding that she will not be easy to deal with. He decided if she refuses housing in another dimension, she will have to stay in the mansion, but convincing his father will not be easy at all. Returning to her, he recalls the mercenary she once tried to hire, and she confirms this, admitting that she used transition magic for this. He reflects that the true power of transition magic is not only in battle, but in its flexibility, in the ability to manifest power in many situations beyond fights. He explains that transition magic can subtly influence thoughts, gently nudging a person's holistic thinking without directly conflicting with their instincts. One technique, wave alignment, adjusts magical properties to the target, allowing the influence to settle more smoothly and effectively. He adds that transition magic can guide decisions, tailoring them to a person's existing desires, so the suggestions seem natural rather than imposed. By subtly arousing instincts, for example, igniting a desire to fight in an ogre, it can influence actions without directly controlling them. This is how the technique works. Not through power, but through thoughtful synchronization. He notes that transition magic has many uses beyond manipulation. It can even dissolve a monster's magical signature in the environment, hiding its presence. Such techniques allowed events like a monster attack in a castle town to unfold unnoticed, proving how flexible this magic really is. He had always felt the opponent's vigilance, but never thought it would come to assassination attempts. Realizing how far the conflict had gone, his face turned to stone. If they play against him with such tactics, he decides to respond in kind, cautiously and decisively, with his own methods. Returning to the estate, they say that they found nothing suspicious in the deepest part, but the Lord, dissatisfied, orders that only she remains and tells everything from beginning to end. Later in the corridor, she says goodbye, confirming the success of the mission, and leaves him alone with thoughts about what will happen next. Then she explains, for now she will be both a guard and a maid, at the same time winning his trust, snooping around looking for a moment to strike. That was her story, and she adds that during the investigation he remained cautious and still gave no chance. He accepted her explanation with amazing ease, although behind the scenes transition magic was at work, and listens calmly, acknowledging this and satisfied with how smoothly everything went. He knew that sooner or later suspicions would surface, but for now they have a reason to stay at the estate. As soon as doubts appear, they will instantly adapt. Several days pass. Walking through the yard, he suddenly heard a sharp voice that pulled him out of his thoughts and made him look at someone nearby. In the garden, two maids are arguing over duties. One insists that the garden needs sweeping, the other replies that the laundry must be finished first. Watching from afar, he recognizes the familiar scene and sighs quietly, realizing that the quarrel has started again. Eventually, she becomes his personal maid, but in her free time, she is assigned various humiliating tasks. She sweeps the garden with noticeable irritation. She grumbles that she is doomed to petty, humiliating household chores and angrily snaps back when asked. As soon as she is called, she instantly puts on a radiant smile and dismisses all complaints, and despite her pride, she is sometimes strangely clumsy. Quietly apologizing, he leaves for training, leaving the maids alone with their quarrels. He consciously did not interfere in her affairs. She once held a high rank among demons, but beneath her apparent calm, he notices tension and thinks she needs a way to vent accumulated irritation. Walking through the garden, lost in thought, he hears a familiar voice calling him. It pulled him out of his reflections. The girl approaching him is Rain Albion, his sister, only a year younger than him. Like him, she was born from the late second wife of the family. He recognized her as a minor heroine from the original game, the one who once quietly stood in the background of events. When she suddenly stepped forward and spoke first, it caught him by surprise. He never expected her to make the first move. Although they were relatives, there was never true closeness between them. Before his reincarnation, Rain wanted to become closer to her brother, but Rest always kept his distance. Looking back, he wonders, was it just youthful awkwardness, or did something deeper divide them? After he was reborn among the others, the distance between them only grew. By the old customs of the Albion family, only those who had undergone the divine oracle ceremony could eat together, so their meals became separate and chances to see each other were even fewer. He gently asked what is troubling her. She froze for a moment, surprised by his concern. Gathering her courage, she blurts out that she heard rumors about him, that he befriended Princess Charlotte, defeated the monsters that appeared in the city, and even won duels against Edward and Clifford. Her eyes shine with a mixture of shock and admiration as she waits for his answer. With shy courage, she confesses that she wants to become like him, strong, capable, and admired. Her confession hangs in the air while leaves slowly swirl between them. He, caught off guard, looks at her silently, not knowing how to respond to the sincerity of her words. Gathering courage, she asks him if he can teach her how to become stronger. She explains that watching him is inspiring, never gives up, and works hard despite the circumstances. Embarrassed but sincere, she admits that she simply wants to grow into a person like him. He listens quietly, surprised by the admiration in her eyes and the sincerity of her request, gently reassures her, saying he understands her feelings, like him, has long been trying to find her place in the family. Some relatives looked down on their late mother, so the house was never hospitable. Growing up in that environment, Rain gradually became withdrawn and began to view her future with quiet pessimism. Under those circumstances, during the ceremony of the divine oracle, he was given what seemed like a useless skill, something that was supposed to worsen his position, but he watched as it stubbornly worked and relentlessly produced results. Clinging to that tiny hope, she no longer seeks any tricks, she needs both determination and the path that once made him stronger. Standing before him, she tries to understand where he gets the strength to move forward and not give up, even in a situation that once seemed hopeless. He understands her question but knows he cannot reveal the truth, neither about his reincarnation nor about his incredible ability to tame, so he gathers his spirit and prepares to give an answer she will accept without revealing his secrets. He understands, from the very beginning, there was only one true way to pull someone out of despair. Suddenly, completely excited, he exclaims that they will start strength training. The unexpected answer caught her off guard. She blinked in confusion, and he beamed with determination. In the training hall, she eagerly announces that she has already warmed up. He nods. He tells her to copy his movements, and she immediately picks up, repeating every gesture, adjusting to his posture and rhythm. When the exercises begin in earnest, her enthusiasm quickly turns into visible tension, and he watches intently, searching for her limit. Watching her persistently overcome the exercises, he inadvertently recalls that iconic moment related to their first rest. He wonders why Rest was labeled a noble villain, not simply because he opposed the hero, but because he committed a grave sin that forever defined his role in this story. His appearance, standing amid floors soaked with blood among fallen relatives, decided his fate. He became the antagonist long before the first confrontation with the protagonist. In the original chronology, Rest lost control halfway through the story and with his own hands slaughtered his family. Only one person was spared, Rain. The reason was never explained. Was it because she had the same mother? Or due to some deeper unspoken connection, the truth remained a mystery within the narrative itself. Another thought her ability. Rain possessed an incredible, highest skill known as the God of the Sword. A power that surpassed even the Sword Saint was in the hands of Gad and his eldest son. In the original, she was considered the most gifted in swordsmanship. Nature generously endowed her with incredible talent. Although she was a year younger than the main heroes, her sword skill was impressive. She effortlessly cut down mighty monsters, and after Rest's death in the original story, she appeared in only one scene and drew her sword only once. However, it was this very moment that revealed her incredible genius. Her potential was so colossal that it seemed unfair, as if the story itself deliberately limited her role because her power bordered on cheating. Shortly after she awakened the sword god in the original story, her brother began to behave strangely. Rain herself once mentioned it, but what she really meant is unknown, and as he thinks, her power is not directly related to how Rest eventually fell into rage. The ceremony of the divine oracle, where she will be given the sword god, is only a few months away, so he decided that if he trains her well now, she will definitely benefit from it. He decides to move on to sword training, noticing that the intensifying rain does not interfere with his plans. She initially looks surprised, hesitates, and repeats his words while he remains confident in his idea. If nothing else, he at least hopes that the training will give her some confidence. In the training hall, their wooden blades clash sharply. He corrects her posture and praises her progress, and she resolutely moves forward. Watching closely, he notices that her movements are already much more refined than when he first reincarnated. Satisfied with the session, he asks to stop and calmly ends the duel. Breathing heavily, she glows with gratitude. She sincerely thanks him for the training. He praises her efforts and says that for the first time she lasted until the end, and she shyly asks if they can train together again. He smiled warmly and agreed without hesitation, encouraging her newly born determination. She smiled brightly and thanked him with sincere joy, and her former insecurity was replaced by admiration. Later, returning to her duties, she quietly takes up her tasks again, but this time there is a lightness in her movements as if something inside has begun to change. While she was scrubbing and sweeping, irritation appeared on her face again. She mutters about endless household chores, cleaning, washing, and cooking, and asks herself why she has to do it all. She recalls a story she herself told, how she was both a guard and a servant at the same time, gaining trust and waiting for her chance to strike. And now, having been fully appointed his personal maid, she realizes that her own words have trapped her in a pile of additional duties, and she regrets having said them. Seeing her obvious irritation, he casually remarks on how upset she is. With a barely noticeable smile, he promises that when the time comes, he will tell their father that she can be trusted, and if that happens, her work will become easier. Her eyes instantly lit up, distrust melted away and was replaced by admiration. She insisted on confirmation, and he calmly assured her it was true. After taming Riebe, Rest changes his plans. Instead of continuing to hunt monsters in the forest, he decides to use her teleportation magic and his newly acquired mimicry skill. Combining these two abilities, he believes they can move on to the next stage of his strategy. Rest announced that they are heading immediately to the Adventurers Guild, his confident smile. This sharply contrasts with Rain's stunned reaction. She barely keeps up with the next unexpected twist in his plans. Rain asks in surprise why they are going to the Adventurers Guild, and immediately thinks it is for the money. Rest clearly makes it understood. Money is not the main goal. He needs an official ID and access to dungeons, because the real goal is to start directly challenging the dungeons. Dungeons are enclosed labyrinths filled with traps, special mechanics, and powerful monsters. In the game, going there was mandatory for growth. Rare, valuable items that made heroes much stronger were hidden inside. Rest explains that hunting forest monsters has a limit how much experience they give, so instead of relying only on battles, he believes it is more effective to become stronger through dungeon rewards and equipment. Rain worries, won't it be difficult to find dungeons with worthy rewards? Rest calmly smiles and says he already has a plan. He is a reincarnated person with memories of his past life, so he knows how the dungeons of this world are arranged, even those not yet explored. From hidden mechanics to monster patterns and internal traps, he knows exactly what awaits inside. Rain realizes he wants to get into the dungeon, but wonders, how is this even related to obtaining an ID card? Rest explains that it is about his identity. As long as he is publicly known as Rest Albion, every step he takes instantly reaches his father. Being a member of the Albion family means frequent checks and close surveillance. Acting openly will only attract interference. He already imagines how Gad intervenes, accusing him of neglecting the mission to investigate the forest, and tightens control over every step he takes. He decided on a long-tested plan, to register in the Adventurers Guild under a different name, since anyone can sign up if they pay, so in the role of a stranger he could act freely without attracting the attention of the Albion family. Rain points out the obvious flaw: everyone in the city recognizes him, so just changing his name will still expose him. Calmly, he reassures her, this is not a problem. After he mastered taming the third creature, a new ability revealed itself to him, the one that makes this plan real. He completely changed his appearance. Instead of black hair, he is now a blonde. From now on, almost no one recognizes him as a member of the Albion family. With the new plan, they head to the city to prepare. They were going to buy equipment and rush into the dungeon to start the next stage. Rest finishes adjusting the disguise. Now he is a blonde, dressed like a modest novice adventurer, in simple clothes with light armor and a sword on his belt. He blends perfectly with the crowd. Rain looks at him for a few seconds, then nods approvingly. He looks inexperienced, even a bit weak, exactly the image they need. Their cover is flawless, and no one would guess he is the heir of the Albion family. Rest explained that he bought a short sword for two quite obvious reasons. First, he intends to join the Adventurers Guild as a swordsman, not as a tamer. Blade is his mask, enhancing the role and hiding the true power, and an ordinary sword does not arouse suspicion. If he relied on something strange, like a wooden sword, rumors would appear. The irony being that the wooden blade made of low-density magical wood that conducts mana through the wind shell actually turns into a powerful explosion that absorbs things. Kneeling in the middle of the crack, a huge explosion. A huge explosion erupted, enveloping the battlefield with smoke and debris. As the dust began to settle, an figure remains on its knees in the cracked earth, then slowly rises, shaken but still standing. It does not. It kneels on the broken ground, trembling and drenched in sweat. A huge explosion tears the air, enveloping the battlefield with smoke and debris, and as the dust settles, a figure remains. She knelt down in the middle of the cracked earth, then slowly rose, trembling and drenched in sweat. Stunned by the immense power before her and barely standing on her feet, realizes almost no strength remains. Next to her, her opponent stands calmly, composed and observing. It becomes clear that she can no longer continue the fight, but despite exhaustion forces herself to move forward and rushes across the shattered battlefield. The boy watched intently and shouted. In response, two beasts instantly charged into attack. Action: one jumps down from above, the other with a wide-open maw lunges to intercept her. Two beasts rush at full speed, one dives from one from above while the other charges head-on. A spiral wind tears the earth. Trapped between their attack, she strains as the strike covers her from all sides. Blades of power strike her. She braces with her legs and pushes back with both hands. Energy tears the field, cuts the air. She grits her teeth. Gritting her teeth, she endures the merciless assault, not retreating despite the fierce pressure. A wave of energy explodes around her, but the youth calmly steps forward. Calmly, unshaken, she looks at him with distrust, rage flashing in her eyes. He responds with quiet confidence, certain the fight is already decided. A whirlwind of wind spins and compresses into a dense vortex. Layers of compressed magic fold into each other. Facing tightly grips the sword, it is clear that defense is no longer needed, for true power gathers in his hands. Above his blade, the vortex swells as he pours every last spark of magic into it. The power thickens explosively, twisting the air. Opposite him, she froze in shock, realizing that the attack born before her is unlike anything she has faced. When the vortex is fully formed, it raises It grows at the speed of its strike, unleashing a destructive flow that tears the battlefield and the tamer apart. The power he created from nothing pierces him like memories of relentless. He lunged forward with the extended blade, embodying both blades. He puts everything into the sword and throws himself into the strike. The wind wildly wraps around the blade, no longer a thin cutting edge but a fierce stream. What was once a precise cut, because it turns into a swirling stream. The air itself sharpens into a crushing storm descending downwards. Her eyes open wide in disbelief as the storm descends, its crushing force tearing everything in its path. When a stunning blow crashes down on her, she realizes too late that it is a strike meant to shatter even the strongest fortifications do not hold. He lowers the storm blade and a huge gust of wind bursts into the ground. The strike tore apart the battlefield, threw her out, and carved a deep furrow in the earth. Amid the settling dust, she lies broken but alive, and he stands over the ruins. Calm and collected, aware of her resilience, she struggles to rise from the rubble. She falls onto the cracked earth, barely con. She is conscious. He approaches calmly, sees her solitude, and decides no one will come. Though he admits her resistance is impressive, he remains unshaken as she struggles to stand and asks. He freezes for a moment, confused by her human likeness, but does not abandon his decision. He looks down at her with firm, calm eyes. Guys, realizing that the road ahead can take the lives of both demons and humans, and accepting this cruel truth of the world. At that moment, he finally decides. She lies wounded among the ruins, and he will quickly end this by decisively lying on her. Honor, a barely noticeable crack appears nearby, and he tightens his sword, ready for the unexpected. Expected change, pressed to the broken earth, she loses self-control, panic floods her thoughts, and pride yields to bare fear. Fear, desperately wishing to live, she silently begs for mercy, ready to give everything to survive. When she lies defeated on the broken ground, a message appears before him. She can now be tamed. With a sword in hand, he stands silently, weighing his choice. When the battlefield quiets, a message hovers before him. It gives him a chance to tame her. Confusion ran across his face. He remembered that in the demon game, taming was never successful. Only rare monsters appear under special conditions. He, looking down at her, he asks himself what has changed when he realized this power was never part of him. About the original rules, he recalls the conditions for taming. The target he must defeat it, and it must agree to submit. Demons are incredibly powerful, so both these requirements are almost impossible. Impossible to fulfill. Looking at her now, his pride crumbled. The survival instinct burst out, he understood. He realizes how rare this moment is among demons of her level. He looks at her transformation magic and admiringly acknowledges its flexibility, but knows against stronger enemies and too powerful beasts she has her limits. He was already standing nearby, weaving another type of magic. What could shake the balance? Eventually, he concluded that only one unknown remained: her will, whether she would truly submit. Standing over her, he dismisses the thought that she is the last. He announces that he has a proposal, and immediately makes it clear he will not tolerate betrayal, not even the slightest hint. A barely perceptible hint. Meeting her gaze, he says that her life can be spared. It all depends only on her answer. At first she laughs, refusing to accept the enemy's offer, but after a short pause her tone sh. He shifts and she agrees at least to listen to him. He looks and, in silence, he quietly nudges her to speak while the tension between them hangs in the air. He drops the disguise and speaks plainly, asking if she is ready to serve him. Calmly, he admits that his taming plan P. Power can command not only monsters but also demons, and offers to add her to his followers. Her eyes widen in shock at that hint. She smirked. He smiles crookedly, admits that the offer is not entirely bad, but calmly doubts whether he can truly trust her. She emphasizes that she can submit now and then betray him, and yet he unflinchingly waits for her answer without him. Hesitation, although pride does not allow her to bow her head. Her heart is already screaming for survival. She wants to immediately agree and cling to life at any cost, even if she does not say it directly. He cuts through her hesitation and, suddenly, it turns out that he sees deep into her heart. Reminding her why she lost, he calmly says that resistance is futile. Is stunned. She denies not believing, but the truth of her fear has already burst out. Hidden thoughts sound aloud, exposing her desperate pleas. To survive, he looks calmly pleased that she faltered. Reaction: stunned, she clutches her head, panics, her fear is exposed, and he quietly. It was rightly noted, he only needed to make her believe it. Even without reading thoughts, a special connection arises between him and those he tames. Through it, emotions and intentions can be divided, and he can set restrictions by giving the command. He gives commands along that path and thinks he never had to use this skill with those he trusted before, but now it simply saves him, if she ever. Every time someone plots betrayal, they will feel it instantly and react without hesitation. He calmly explains that the bond born of taming leaves no room for deception. Any lie or intention to betray will immediately reach him through their link, and he will destroy her without any hesitation. For him, this is simply how this ability works, clearly and indisputably.